So the Chauncey Billups for Allen Iverson trade was really weird. It came out of nowhere. And it seemed like a desperate attempt by the Pistons to find some new life. And it was weird because they kept going to the conference finals every year. They won 59 games the year before. Yeah, they lost to the Celtics in 6 games, but for whatever reason, they viewed that as a negative. Like, they fired Flip Saunders, and then they traded their best player for Iverson. And I still don't really know why they did it, because you were already good. I mean, okay, maybe you weren't good enough to beat whatever team in the East was going to beat you that year, but it's a lot better than what the Pistons have been doing for years now, which is just trying to get back up to something close to that level, you know what I mean? So when you're there, rocking the boat too much can go really badly, and this is exactly what happened for Detroit. The trade was Billups and Antonio McDyess and something else for Iverson. That was the move. This, of course, went great for the Nuggets because Chauncey was awesome, and they went to the conference finals against the Lakers that year and lost 6 games, and from then on it wasn't as good, but their instant return on Chauncey was amazing. And I remember when taking on Iverson, it was immediate that it was going to be a culture clash, right? I mean, this was talked about a lot at the time. I don't remember every little thing said, but I do remember some of it, and part of it was like, wait, Iverson on the Pistons? Like, the Pistons who move the ball around, and I mean, you look at their shot distribution just the year before. Detroit. Richard Hamilton led them with 14 shots a game. Tayshaun at 12, Rasheed at 12, Chauncey at 11. And now you're going to bring Allen Iverson into that? It just seemed like Joe Dumars was trying way too hard to make a splash. I mean, I'm trying to look at Chauncey's contract here. So in July of 2007, so the offseason before this move, Chauncey signed a 5-year extension with the Pistons. And then the move happened, and I'm pretty sure Iverson was on a 1-year contract because, well, yeah, he was, because then the Pistons renounced his free agent exception rights and he signed with the Grizzlies. So it's just a weird turn of events. I mean, to give Chauncey the extension, when, by the way, Chauncey, I believe he was like 28 or 29. He was not old. And then to trade him on for a 1-year deal guy 2 games into the next season, it's just like, what's the plan here, you know? And then if I'm not mistaken, Joe Dumars also gave Richard Hamilton an extension right around the same time that this move happened, which again makes you ask, is there a plan right now? I mean, if we're going to give Chauncey the extension and then trade him, why are we keeping Richard Hamilton too? Like, did Joe Dumars just genuinely believe that throwing Allen Iverson into the mix would jumpstart the Pistons to some new thing? I have to assume. I mean, what else would it have been? By the way, Chauncey was 30 when he did the contract extension. So, okay, but even then, like, Chauncey proved to still be pretty good until about 34 years old. I mean, his 2011 season at 34 for the Nuggets/Knicks, he put up 17 and 5. He was still really good from 3 and okay. So, I don't know, man. Like, it kind of reminds me, not as much, because the Pistons were a better team and stuff, but it kind of reminds me of like what we saw with the Raptors past couple years, where it's like, you're getting there, but you're not really good enough to get over the hill and get into the finals and stuff, which even then I'd feel like if you gave that Pistons team another chance, and let's say Joe Dumars makes some moves at the deadline or something to make that team better in some way, I don't know what they could have done. Like, is it insane to think maybe they could have been better than Cleveland or the Celtics or the Magic and potentially gotten to the finals and faced the Lakers? I really don't know. But also it's like, why not try? Like, why not just keep going for it? I mean, I can understand at times wanting to tear it down if the writing is on the wall, but I don't think the writing was on the wall with that Pistons team. I think they were still pretty damn good. Well, at least they could have been, because you look at it, right? That 2009 season, which, by the way, Iverson, he put up 17 and 5 on bad efficiency. Because at this point, Iverson's lack of, having the best advanced stats in the world was not overcome by just his sheer whatever, the Iverson-ness of the early 2000s. That was gone. At this point, he was an inefficient 17 points a game guy. That's what he was. But the rest of the team, like Tayshaun was 28. He averaged 14 and 6 on good efficiency. Rashid's box score never reflected how talented he actually was. Rip put up a nice 18 a game. Chauncey, of course, was great for the Nuggets. This was back when... This might have also been because of the whole Rodney Stuckey thing, from what I remember, because there was some excitement that Rodney Stuckey could be the guy to take over or whatever. That, of course, never happened. But, I really believe if the Pistons don't make this move, they probably win another, 55 games and they go on some sort of playoff run. Maybe they lose, maybe they don't, but it would have been better than this. But even so, maybe there's a chance that Pistons team wouldn't have been amazing. Because, they were certainly running out of gas a little bit by that point, I get it. So maybe you do make some sort of a move. But again, if you're going to do it, then don't trade for Allen Iverson. You know what I mean? Get picks and do the whole thing. Trade everybody. Don't sign Richard Hamilton to an extension. Maybe keep Tayshaun because he's 28. But go that route and just say, all right, we're going to suck for a couple years. We're going to do the whole process thing. But then we're going to come out the other side looking good. Instead, what has happened is this move was kind of the beginning of what we've seen for basically the last decade from the Pistons, which is a whole bunch of, we want to make the playoffs, but we're not good enough, so we're going to kind of tank, but also we kind of don't want to be the worst team in the league, and there was the commitment to Drummond and Reggie Jackson, and it's just a whole bunch of inconsistencies and just not good talent evaluation and not great drafting and just a bad front office, best way to put it. And this was the foundation of that. See, this is one of those examples why you don't just look to tear it down or whatever, Because when you got something good and you start to go in a different direction, it doesn't mean you're going to get back there. The Pistons have been trying something for a long time, and who knows if it ends up going anywhere, you know what I mean? Now again, is it possible they could have traded Chauncey and whatever and done it the right way? Yeah, I think so. Also if Rodney Stuckey was amazing, which at the time, it's tough to remember now, but there was a real thing. It's Rodney Stuckey and Jason Maxiell. These are the two dudes who are going to lead the Pistons' next regime. If they would have been awesome, then, probably wouldn't have looked as bad. The Iverson part would have still been bad, but the rest of it, probably not. I guess what I can do for the rest of this is attempt to think of how Dumars could have seen this going well. So, the idea would have been, well, you're putting Iverson into a situation with a team that has good defenders and there's already a culture here, and Iverson, he had that with the Nuggets a little bit, and he had that with the Larry Brown years with the Sixers at least, but he never totally had that, right? So maybe this could have been the team. Rip plays off of him, Tayshaun plays off of him, Rashid plays off of him. He's got a two-man game with Rashid going, and he's got shooters around him, which wasn't as big of a deal to have shooting like that back then. But even so, guys who can make some shots. It's not whoever playing small forward for the Sixers, George Lynch or something. And perhaps Iverson really could have brought in some extra dynamic to the team that they needed and made the team just a little less boring and methodical and a little tougher to defend and all that. And, if there was a world in which Iverson would be shooting 10 free throws a game for those Pistons and playing off the ball a little bit more. Another thing to think about is that they had a new coach. It was Michael Curry, who coached this year and then was an assistant for 3 years with the Sixers, and that was it. Kind of a weird signing. to go from Flip Saunders. And again, it's that idea of there was probably pressure from all angles to, well, we got to shake up this team somehow. But they really should not have fired Flip Saunders. I mean, you win 59 games, you lose in 6 games to the eventual NBA champion. Like, why are you getting rid of your coach under those circumstances, Especially because Flip was good. He was a good coach. It wasn't one of those, like, Scott Brooks situations where the team is clearly winning despite the coach, So, yeah, that's how it could have gone well, but it didn't.